Hello there again. I don't know if I've ever done a fourth part of a daily walk video, or rather four of them on the same day. Doesn't really matter. So I forget what time it is. I think it's, I want to say close to like somewhere in the range of 7:30, maybe a little later than that. I to be honest, I've not really been checking the time. I was listening to some music earlier, and so we're just enjoying it. I'm actually walking through pretty much the same area, much of the same area that I did this morning. I believe, or early afternoon, whatever it was. And I'm just saying, these footsteps look like really big. I'm not gonna lie. There's also a little bit of like drag onto them, so that makes it look like that my foot is like like much longer. I don't know, I thought it was pretty funny. I can imagine it freak someone out, I guess. It's super weird though, because I can see right in the snow. You can see where you've been before, assuming that you know for a fact that is your footsteps. And admittedly, it's not really that special when it's like, oh, well, I already walked through here, several hours ago just today, which is extremely recent. It's different when you kind of think about maybe not necessarily your physical footsteps, but think about like the past and where you've been before, or things that you really liked. For example, and I don't think I've really told many people this, not because it's like a super private thing, but literally probably just because I forgot, was when I was a kid, okay, so pretty much most of the music I listened to was either the stuff on the radio in my mom's car when she brought us to school, or it would be whatever the bus drivers would play, if in the afternoon or morning. It really depends on the year, but whatever, it's either what one of my parents would play, one of the radio stations they'd pick out, or whatever radio station that bus drivers would pick out. But if it wasn't one of those, then most of the rest of the music I listened to was in fact on CDs, which I've not listened to very much, if any, music on CD in the last however many years. At least, I reckon at least 5 or 6 years, I've barely listened to any CDs, which is kind of a shame. Because I don't know, I just thought it was kind of cool, and and that was the first way I listen to music. And finally, I don't know how many times, and occasionally I still flip up, although I don't not as much. I'd confuse CDs and DVDs. That's how me and my family used to watch TV and watch some TV. My mom did get Netflix when I was in middle school, I believe. As middle or late middle school, I think it was when that happened. But yeah, still pretty crazy to think, you know. And before that, I remember we used to watch. God, I can't remember what it was called exactly, but I think we actually used to watch a lot of things on VHS, which is something that my parents did a lot when they were kids in the 80s. And I don't know, I just think that's pretty cool. I remember thinking a lot of the times at the time when I was really young, I was like, why are we watching this or that? But now reflecting back on it, it's super cool, you know. Kind of just seeing how these sort of technologies have, you know, influenced or been part of our lives, and how they've changed quite dramatically, you know, from, you know, perhaps from one generation to the next. You know. Right here. I say the sky is, it's quite pretty, actually, and it's just kind of a weird thing, because, and I know we don't really think about it too much, or at least I don't, but kind of imagine like how people from perhaps other time periods, you know, would have viewed, you know, our current, you know, our modern day, you know, lighting, right? You know, stuff like, you know, the not just like the, you know, the lamps, you know, or the you know, or the light on the streets, but also, you know, like our you know, the go and slow and stop lights that we have, right? If I remember correctly, you know, we actually use some kind of, we use, like, was it noble gas elements, I believe, in a lot of those kinds of things. And then when you, I think it's like something when you like burn them or whatever, and they emit light. And I just think it's super cool. I mean, you know, there's nothing quite like having natural light, but still, nonetheless, I mean, you know, kind of think about how crazy, like, stuff like, you know, electricity is, that we have that. I mean, you know, we didn't even really have that, at least not in America, until, what was it, 1880s, 90s, early 1900s. I don't know, I feel like I may be getting that wrong, but I could have sworn it was something like that, you know. And then we just think about, like, how dramatically the world has changed, you know, for good and bad. Or even just, you could even say neutral, or just in general, you know, from how it was, you know, 100 years ago. I mean, if we're thinking back 100 years ago, it would have been, what, 1925? I mean, you know, a whole different world, so to say, a whole different, I mean, in many ways, you know. It's also interesting to think about how, you know, we humans, as a race, as a species, you know, or any of our societies, have also stayed the same a lot, you know, or you know, stayed very similar to, or very true to certain truths or aspects, you know, throughout the decades or centuries. Which I definitely think is also a pretty fascinating feature of real life. So I don't know. But I mean, yeah, like, think of like how crazy like our electricity is. Like, it's something that, you know, many people take for granted, you know. Oh, you know, sure, we can just flip a switch and turn on the light, or you know, we can have not only can we, you know, have these, you know, crazy vehicles, not, you know, cars, trains, whatnot, you know, that can, you know, travel long distances and, you know, go pretty quickly, and, you know, carry multiple people and a lot of goods in them, you know, but like also just like, you think about all these things, and it's like, think about what it would have been like, the perspective. Try to imagine the perspectives of someone, of some people who lived, as, in the late, in the late 19th century or early 20th century, as electricity was, becoming a thing and becoming more widespread at that too. I mean, because like you would have gone from, you light everything with a candle. You have to, if you want to get something, if you want to see in the dark, you have to use fire. That's pretty much your only way, right? And you have to, and candles could sometimes be maybe a little expensive. I don't really know how they would have been in a lot of the past, but I don't know. At least I feel like that's probably the case. Although if there's any historical nerds in the comment section down below, please correct me. Tell me what the actual truth of this stuff was, what research has found. I'd like to know. But yeah, just like, you would have gone from, living in, I wake up when the sun comes up and I go to bed when the sun goes down, to, I can, you can suddenly stay up, or get up earlier or whatever, and you can do a lot more things, I mean, not only does it, of course, yes, it does, still does, I feel like, significantly contribute to, perhaps how, it does really contribute a lot to how our society is today in terms of, business and functionality and effectiveness and efficiency and all these good things, right? Because you're able to get more people to work, or you're able to, have night shifts, which can help businesses, get income during the nighttime. Something that many of them, if you weren't like a bar or a tavern or something like that, you probably, or some other, or some other really well-to-do place, you probably couldn't really afford, or wouldn't want to spend, a shit ton of money and time trying to, constantly, light and keep and stock enough candles for all that kind of stuff, right? And also, just imagine how hot it would have gotten. I mean, you have like all those candles too, right? Especially, I can imagine if you lived in a colder area, that would have been definitely pretty interesting business. But anyway, although I do realize now in hindsight, like, okay, well, they did often use like furnaces and campfires and or you'd have a fireplace, or something like that. Those were often solutions depending on where you were at. But anyhow, but again, it's also not just that, not just the business stuff, but also like other things, like for example, and this isn't really something I've really heard people talking about before, but like also now we can have, it's much easier for perhaps for a lot of people to be able to stay up for personal interest or hobbies, or or imagine if you were an avid book reader, right, in the late 19th or early 20th century, and you suddenly have this access to electricity, however expensive it might have been, I don't know, and you're able to stay up and you're able to read more, and you're able to or if you're a person that really is really scientific and you really like studying the natural earth and lands and or whatever, really, then you can stay up and observe some wildlife that that's nocturnal, or you can you can see how people act. If you're a psychologist or sociologist, you could see how people act differently, what their sort of behaviors and motivations are at nighttime. All sorts of different things, and much more beyond what few points I've mentioned here already. You can imagine all sorts of things on top of that. But yeah, as well as, let's try to think another, super big revolutionary thing, I feel like, and is very much goes along with electricity. If you're just thinking about, all the other sort of innovations that we had in the 20th century that, used electricity that, drastically improved the quality of life of many. So, for example, washing machines and dryers, or microwaves, or, freezers and fridges, or, actual ovens, all of these really big things. And hell, even stuff like, actual air conditioning, heating, ventilation, perhaps. All these things that we often just really take for granted, it's just really normal, and, it's just a part of our lives. But it really is a lot of really big things I think we should be grateful for and recognize, really how different our lives are. What we're able to do, what kind of, resources we have at our disposal that people, hundreds, thousands of years ago could never have even dreamed of, right? Would the ancient Greeks or Egyptians or Romans or Chinese or whoever, Mayans, would any of them have ever dreamed that one day, we'd have, these planes that could, take us to, other countries, other very distant lands in a matter of a few hours, instead of, entire, months or years even to do, or that we would have, ways to, store up a lot more food without having to put salt on everything to preserve it, right? Or that we'd have, or a really big thing, and this is especially important to me because I know I definitely use this all the time, but is the internet. Would they have any of them dreamed that, hey, one day we'd have, in the future we'd have this thing that allows us to, communicate with people halfway across the globe, or to, or to, to learn about all sorts of crazy different things that, all sorts of misinformation that, in other time periods would have been withheld, or would have been really, really sought after, right? You would have had, particular scholars and, theologians and historians, perhaps, that would get access to all this kind of stuff, but it was you had to really, really fight to get those things. You had to really fight to get to know a lot more about, history and science and, psychology and all these amazing things, or how the world works in so many different ways, And yet now, we just take it for granted. We just say, well, okay, if you just want to learn something, just look it up. But I mean, and it makes sense, in the context of our, current, historical and cultural perspective, right? I mean, that's just a very normal thing for us to do or say. But I don't know. I just think it's really interesting to put yourself in the perspective of people who lived in the past and kind of really come to appreciate or see like how novel a lot of things that we have are. Or hell, another really thing I completely forgot to mention is our medicine in our healthcare. I mean, shit, I know that our healthcare system here in the United States is often really, really expensive, and there's a lot of problems that we could definitely address. And I'll share my opinions on political stuff another day. But, nonetheless, I mean, we have often a lot of really high, really high quality care that can save, and medicines and health practices, even just washing your hands or taking an actual shower without using the same water as the other people in your household, or actual, plumbing, or, food sanitary practices, all these sort of things, working conditions, right? That really means that we live much longer than, our ancestors might have. That we won't easily die, or even if we do come into contact with stuff, we won't even really significantly experience any symptoms, from these illnesses, that that others might have, experienced, which, life-saving stuff, I mean, it's just crazy. And just thought I'd share that. And I am also glad that I stuck more with the sort of one particular sort of topic here in this video, rather than jumping around between half a billion different things. Although I don't think anyone really cares too much or necessarily minds. But nonetheless. And it's also been nice getting some more clips around for today. And if you've enjoyed this video and the content that I've made, and you want to see more of it, then feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'm trying to reach 50 subscribers before Valentine's Day, and I really appreciate all the people who have subscribed, who contributed to that goal. We're making slow progress, but it's progress nonetheless, and slow and steady wins the race. As some fables and folklore go. But yeah, and I don't know. Not only if I'm appreciating, being outside and whatnot, it doesn't also feel, freezing. So I'm not even wearing gloves right now. My hands feel perfectly fine. But also getting to just look at the night sky. I can see the moon, and it's quite pretty. I do wonder. I mean, and it is a full moon, by the way. I do wonder if anyone in my audience has ever seen like a different colored moon. Like for example, like I know, and I don't remember if I've ever seen any other ones, but I know I've seen a yellow moon. I'd say at least 4 or 5 times in my life, maybe more, but I mean, again, not very frequently. I think happens like every 2-3 years or so, maybe less frequently than that, but regardless, it doesn't really matter too much. Just thought it was super cool. And I do wonder, I don't really know if that has any sort of significance or impact other than, it just looks really cool, or something going on with celestial light or whatever. But I do wonder, like, in fields of, say, like, astrology or mysticism or anything like that. We think about that, like what does the yellow mean, moon? What does a yellow moon mean? That's what I meant to say. Good lordy. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know. It's actually super cool seeing how the moonlight reflects on the clouds in the sky. Being a very pale, very soft sort of texture, I guess. Look, you know what I mean. I've liked the snow though. It has been nice, and I see a Papa John's car going by there. I did actually have like two slices of pizza earlier. Fortunately, it wasn't a particularly great pizza, but nonetheless, it was all right. It's just like vegetarian, I think. Because I think it was just greens and tomato, but not my personal favorite. But yeah, it's alright. It's pizza. It's food. Anyway, I don't really. I might stay here for just another minute or two. I don't really want to. No, it's not that I don't want to, but I don't really know what else to talk about right now. I see I just got a notification from YouTube. Well, a new video I get to watch, I guess. So that's cool. You know, to worry about that. I've been watching a lot of YouTube, and the last few days anyway, but regardless. Oh, and by the way, the Minecraft video I talked about earlier, a few hours ago, it is out. It released not too terribly long afterwards, after I went back to the dorm here. So yeah, so it's great. If you've been liking any of my Minecraft content, check that out. It's a new Minecraft series. I don't know. I don't know if anyone is, but I do wonder if someone in my audience is like, oh, why do you keep on starting new series? I have a bunch of different things that have like just a few episodes in, and the reasoning for that, in case you were wondering, I mean, I haven't got any comments about it yet, but I don't know, maybe someone was thinking about it a little bit, might wonder in the future. Well, the reasoning is that I don't know, I just didn't really feel the most like just doing all of one thing and then moving on to the next. I kind of just been going around as I will, so I know it's been kind of sporadic. One day I'd have like a speed run for my season 1, and then the next Minecraft video I'd be doing some random ass challenge, and then the next one I'd be doing a world hardcore survival world series, either by myself or with a friend or something. But yes, the particular video is it's the first episode of my Minecraft hardcore single player survival. I really wish I could come up with shorter names or more original names for these. I really just been describing them based literally on what they are, not like like, oh, I come up with a cool title. Although I'm sure maybe in the future, who knows, at some point I might come up with some cooler names. But if you've watched a lot of my Minecraft, videos so far, you can, I don't know, if you want to, you can try to give me some cool suggestions on what you think I should name, my hardcore world, or anything like, or the world that I have with my friend, the Survival World series that's got 2 episodes so far. Or if you be like, oh, here's what I think you should name your sword, or your axe, or your shovel, or your dog, or cat, or parrot, or something, or anything like that, then feel free to give me some comments down below what you think about that. If you want to, again, no pressure. Anyways, I'm gonna get going in now, and I do hope that at least 1 or 2 people liked this video, found it interesting, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.